Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Morning Preview, where we talk about everything around the NFL. I'm Billy Hunt, here with Eric Van Horn and Luke Nichols, also with Josh Mobley across the studio. Thursday night game already happened between the Chiefs and the Broncos, and we're going to bring it over to Josh to talk more about that one.
Hey guys, this past Thursday we already had a game set in stone, and this game was a big blowout. We had the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Denver Broncos. You had the Kansas City Chiefs put up a big 30 burger, and you had the Broncos put up a 6-piece. So they didn't really, compete that much. But one of the storylines of this game was the Kansas City Chiefs defense. They had 9 sacks. You had Alex Okafor, you had Anthony Hitchens, and you had Frank Clark. Each have 2 sacks and have a forced fumble. So they were all over Joe Flacco. On the Broncos side, it wasn't that much to really talk about, but they do have a bright spot in their young receiver, tall receiver, big hands, Cortland Sutton, who has 6 receptions, 87 yards. But the biggest storyline of this game was the Patrick Mahomes injury. He had a dislocated kneecap during a QB sneak. They were able to put his kneecap back together, snap it back on the scene, and he was able to walk off, on his own power. And, according to the injury report, he will be out 3 to 5 weeks, so he will be back during the season and will be able to contribute to the Kansas City Chiefs offense and to their team. But they'll have Matt Moore stepping in while he's out, out for the time being. So that's Thursday Night Football.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, it was a good game. I mean, it was actually a terrible game, but let's talk about the game first, and then we'll get to Mahomes' injury after that. I can't really put everything on Joe Flacco. Yeah, he has terrible pocket presence, but when you have a half a second to throw the ball, what do you really expect from a quarterback?
Yeah, that offensive line is just awful. They couldn't get anything going. I mean, it looked like as soon as he got it, he just started panicking in the pocket. And plus, they said before the game, it's Joe Flacco, this offensive line is going to have a big task in their hands because Joe Flacco never moves in the pocket.
Yeah,
I think he went outside the pocket one time that game.
Yeah, and it was just a throw it away.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think I've addressed this actually before. I think Billy mentioned it a couple times, but I'm a Chiefs fan. So I don't know whether I should be excited about how the defense played or just kind of accept the fact that it was the Broncos. I don't know which one it is.
You never tell. I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive of a game because the Broncos have been running the ball really well in the last 2 weeks, and they got Lindsey and they got Freeman. They got a good backfield. And that's the Chiefs' weakness on defense. But once you are down 20-6, you can't run the ball.
Yeah,
that's why the Colts won and the Texans won, because they were able to run the football and they were able to chew the clock and keep it a close game. So they were still once you're not gonna, if you get down more than 2 touchdowns to the Chiefs, you're not winning because they're just gonna keep outscoring you.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah, unless you're Tom Brady. But they're just going to keep outscoring you every time. That's the formula to beat the Chiefs, one of the best teams in the NFL, who are still playing really well with a lot of injuries. And that injury to Pat Mahomes is lucky. Not lucky, but they're lucky he's only out 3 to 5 weeks.
The timetable for him is lucky. It could have been so much worse. But thank God it isn't.
Yeah, because you want to see the best guys in the NFL play.
Mm-hmm.
They've actually been playing since week 1, since the first half of week 1, they haven't had less than 5 starters inactive so far this season.
Yeah, so Chris Jones is a big one.
They played the Colts game. At the end of the Colts game, they had 9 starters that were out.
Yeah.
They played the Texans game of 5 starters out. And then they had to play this past game with Tyreek Hill back, but then Mahomes got hurt. So Sammy Watkins is still out. Alex Okafor was hurt for a while. Chris Jones was hurt. Tyreek Hill was hurt. Xavier Williams is hurt. They're just really banged up.
Yeah, and they got 2 big tests coming up next week with the Packers and the Vikings. You got to hope Matt Moore can at least get you 1 win in those games, stay competitive in that division, and then once you get your team fully healthy near the end of the season, start to take off, get in the playoff form, and then if you want to win a Super Bowl, that's what you got to do. But there's also a lot of really good games I'm hoping for this week, and we're going to send it back over to Josh to talk about those games coming up this week.
Yep, there's a lot of big games this week. Like Billy said, 2-minute drill. I'm going to go through all the different games. We're going to start off through the 1 o'clock hour. We got the Rams versus Falcons. Jalen Ramsey will make his debut going against Julio Jones. That should be a great game. Next, you got the Dolphins versus the Bills. Ryan Fitzpatrick is back in the lineup going against Josh Allen and in that defense over there in the Bills. So we should see them probably put up a lot of points as well. Next, you got the Jaguars versus the Bengals. The Mustache, Gardner Minshew versus Andy Dalton. See how that will go. Should be a lot of points on the Jaguars side of the ball. We got the Vikings and the Lions, the NFC North matchup. And the NFC North is being a tight, contested division, and we should see this game be another crucial game and where the standings will be. Next, you got the Raiders versus the Packers. Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs against Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. Those guys should be a lot of running involved in this game, I believe. Next, you got the Texans versus the Colts, the AFC South matchup. Another game that will have, implications of standings in the AFC South. So we'll see how that goes. Next, you got the Cardinals versus the Giants. Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones, two guys taken in the first round. See how they go and see who will have a better day, and who will have a better career going forward. Next, you got the 49ers versus the Redskins, Jimmy Garoppolo against Case Keenum, and that corny offense, a corny team against the Redskins. They looking very terrible. Should see the 49ers have a big day. In the 4 o'clock hour, we got the Chargers versus the Titans, Keenan Allen and Phillip Rivers going against Ryan Tannehill. Now that he's in the lineup now, Marcus Mariota got sat down. So we'll see what Ryan Tannehill does against that Chargers defense. 4:25, we got the Saints versus the Bears. We're one of the biggest games of today. Mr. Trubisky will be playing. He's going against Teddy Bridgewater, and we'll see how Teddy Bridgewater go against that crazy defense over there in Chicago. Then you got the Ravens versus the Seahawks, the game of the mobile QBs, Russell Money Wilson and Lamar Jackson. Who will have a bigger day between the two? Whoever has a bigger day will probably depend on, will kind of the outcome of the game. So if Lamar have a big game or Russell have a bigger game, that will probably be the winner of today's game. And at 8:20, I believe is the biggest game. You have the Eagles versus the Cowboys, the best rivalry in the league. Carson Wentz versus Dak Prescott in Jerry's world. Who will win this game? This will actually depend on, the NFC East is at stake right here. Who will be number one in the NFC East going forward? This game is big implications on that. So we'll see how that goes. And Monday night, we got the Patriots versus the Jets. Sam Darnold had a great game last week against the Cowboys. Will he keep that going against the Patriots' #1 defense? And Tom Brady is keen to have his victory lap. Let's see. And that's the 2-minute drill. Have fun this week watching all the games.
Thank you, Josh. And Eric, you got the first game of the week. What do you got?
So the game that I'm excited for is Colts-Texans. It doesn't seem like a very big matchup, but I'm anxious to see. Okay, so my reasoning really kind of behind this is because they're both two teams that beat the Chiefs, and I saw them the most. So I watched the full game of those two games, so I know what both the teams are. So I'm really kind of excited to see what they do against each other. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, how that matchup happens. Deshaun Watson right now is playing at a borderline MVP caliber level, and Jacoby Brissett has really kind of exceeded expectations of what they thought he would be in Indianapolis. The Texans' lack of a pass rush against the Colts' offensive line. The Colts probably have a top 5 offensive line in football.
It might be the best offensive line in football, honestly. It's so Costanzo, Quentin Nelson.
Quentin Nelson is
Quentin Nelson's probably the best player from that draft class.
And
it's close. You can argue.
Yeah.
Since the Texans lost Jadeveon Clowney, they don't, other than J.J. Watt, who's kind of getting to the back end of his career, they don't have much else in terms of a pass rush. So I want to see how they really stand up to them. And also, I think it's going to be a ball control game. The way that the two teams approached playing the Chiefs when they played each other was kind of just like power running game and controlling the time of possession. I know when the Chiefs lost to the Texans, the Texans had 40 minutes time of possession to the Chiefs 20. So I'm kind of curious to see what team will dominate time of possession and see if they focus on the running game or the passing game specifically and how they attack each other.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I think the Texans did that because they knew that was the Chiefs' weakness and they knew they had to control the ball because they didn't want to get in a shootout with them. But I think that's the time of possession, power running, kind of rely on your defense, give them that's the Colts' way of playing because they don't have Andrew Luck anymore. They don't have him to spread the ball. Like Jacoby Brissett is not a bad quarterback at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the difference between Jacoby Brissett and Andrew Luck, who could be a top 5 quarterback year in and year out, is such a wide margin that you don't want to get into those shootout games. And they have that offensive line, and they have that. It kind of reminds you of like an old Steelers team.
Yeah,
they have good weapons. They're going to rely on a good running back. They have a really good offensive line.
Their whole like offensive game plan, I feel like, is just kind of like run as much as you can. If you have a hole, you're gonna run it every
Yeah.
single time. But then you're gonna take that deep shot because you still have T.Y. Hilton who can still burn people.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still don't have many like kind of great weapons, so you just got to rely on like Marlon Mack and your running backs to kind of get it done.
Exactly. You got to rely on your running backs, get it to wide receivers that can make plays, get it to your tight end here and there, and the running game opens up the passing game. They're playing like a little bit of old school football.
It's interesting because it's kind of switched with the Texans because the Colts have Marlon Mack isn't like a top 5 guy,
Yeah,
but he's
really
he's
good.
a
He's good.
pretty
He's
good
good.
back.
He's good.
they have that guy, and they're not lacking in weapons, but they kind of have not as top tier weapons. Whereas the Texans have a ton of weapons, and they don't have that kind of like Carlos Hyde is okay, but he'll get the job done. But they have Duke Johnson catching passes. They have Will Fuller. They have
D-Hop.
Darren Fells, who's newfound
Yeah.
tight end that's kind of coming up because of Deshaun Watson.
From
and then
the
they
Cardinals,
have,
right? Wasn't
yeah.
Fells
Yeah,
on
I
the
think it
Cardinals?
was.
Yeah.
And then they have Hop too. So I mean, they have a ton of weapons, and they have a running game that really supports their weapons, and then Deshaun Watson's running game, and the Colts really have a running game that's supported by weapons. So I'm just curious to see which style of play beats the other.
I feel like Watson kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson. Because
He
we're going to
does
get
a
to that
little
game
bit, yeah.
next. But I think because earlier in his career, Watson tried to make plays with his legs when he like got in trouble. But now, when he runs out, he uses his legs to make throws.
Yeah, he's throwing the ball.
Yeah,
much
because
more,
Russell
and
Wilson
he's
did the
a
same
very
thing
good
in the beginning of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He used his legs to make plays, and now he uses his legs to get the ball downfield and make
Right.
throws. So it's your game. Go ahead, start off the scoring position predictions. What do you got?
I'm gonna say one-score game. Texans win 28-21.
Luke?
Yeah, I'm gonna go close game too. Texans win though, 21-17.
Texans will also win, I believe, 30-28. Deshaun Watson will have a big day, and Will Fuller and all those guys over there.
Yeah, we're all going with the Texans here. I think I'm going to take them as well. Hopefully 27-21. I could see D-Hop catching a couple of touchdowns, but I do think Marlon Mack is going to have a big day behind that offensive line, so look for him to go off. So second game we're going to get to, big one, really good. I'm looking forward to this one. Seahawks-Ravens. It's a game I'm going to be talking about today. Russell Wilson is going to win MVP. You heard it right now. He's going to win. He's going to keep going off. Hasn't thrown a pick yet. And Mahomes is hurt, so 3 weeks out. He's not saying he's out of the race because he could throw for 7 touchdowns in three straight
Don't forget about McCaffrey now. It's not just Mahomes. Don't forget about McCaffrey.
McCaffrey's going to fall off. He's a running. There's no way I don't think his body can endure that whole season. But it's Russell Wilson versus Lamar Jackson. One thing I really think about this game is the Ravens defense has been an absolute letdown this year. Like, they signed Earl Thomas, but you got to think they lost a lot of guys. They lost Judon. He's on the Packers. He was a stud. Or no, they still have Judon. They lost
Zadarius Smith.
Zadarius Smith.
lost him.
Excuse me.
C.J. Mosley.
C.J.
He's on the
Mosley.
Jets now.
He's on the Jets. They lost core guys of that group, and their defense has not been playing well at all this year. They really need to step it up, and I'm just looking forward to watching Russ play again and do his thing.
I think this is kind of like it's kind of like a future projection kind of game. I think Lamar Jackson against Russell Wilson is kind of like Russell Wilson is what Lamar Jackson should want to become by the end of his
exactly.
career.
Absolutely.
So I don't actually think this is as good a game as everyone's making it out to be. I think the Seahawks are going to win.
Yeah, because the Seahawks defense is
Like
a lot
Overall, they're
improved
always
as well.
such a good team.
I don't think
Such
they'll win easily, but I think it won't be as big of a game as everyone's talking about. I just think you'll see that Lamar Jackson at this age and point of his career is somewhat raw in the way that Russell Wilson was, but there is the potential there that I think by the time he gets as many years as Russell Wilson has, he could end up being that kind of player. Maybe not as good because Russell Wilson's a first ballot Hall of Famer already.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
But he can be that kind of player, and I think you'll see like the similarities between the two and how they play, and that it's kind of like you'll see Russell Wilson dominate, but then you'll see Lamar Jackson play, and you're like, okay, that guy can be him.
Yeah, that makes sense because he makes good throws. He's got a big arm.
Yeah, it's
But
going to be
one-
a very entertaining game.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
just Lamar Jackson's running ability. That's
Yeah, it's a
ridiculous.
game changer.
He had 200 passing yards and 150 rushing yards.
Yeah, you don't see that
It's
anymore.
amazing.
That's Madden stats right there. You just make a mobile QB run around. He's insane. We knew Lamar Jackson was an athlete, but now that he's starting to get the throwing, like his arm and more accuracy down, you're seeing how dangerous he really can be, and he can become like a Russell Wilson. But I think he's kind of different than Russ. I feel like he's more of like Lamar is kind of relates more to Cam Newton.
He's more Vic.
He's more Vic
Yeah,
and
he's
Cam
more
Newton
Vic.
because Russ is a little like he's always been able to make throws, but early in his career, he was a game manager. He kind of managed the games, let that Legion of Boom
Yeah, had
do whatever.
ridiculous defense.
And one person on the Seahawks that doesn't get enough credit, Pete Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
He's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah, he's been a
every
consistently
single year. Yeah,
very
every
good
single year
coach.
they make the playoffs.
No matter what team, everyone's like, oh, Seahawks are going to
Yeah.
fall off the cliff this year, not going to be as good. And they're always good. They're one of the best teams in the NFC, again.
They'll be like 0-4, and then out of nowhere 9-7,
Mm-hmm.
get in a wild card spot, play a competitive game.
Yeah.
They made back-to-back Super Bowls, won one, and if he would have ran the ball with Lynch, he could have had two
Would've had
rings.
two.
But
Marshawn.
Pete Carroll's one of the best coaches, and he's one of the main reasons that the Seahawks are good year
yeah.
in and year out. So I'll open up the scoring predictions on this one. I'm going to take the Seahawks 35-31. I think it's going to be a little high-scoring game. We could see a lot of offense in this one.
I'll say Seahawks win 30 to 18.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I just think that kind of late in the game, the Seahawks will start to pull away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go 35-21 Seahawks.
I'm going to go 32-24. I think at the end of the day, like you said, in the fourth quarter, Russell Wilson will go in overdrive and separate himself from Lamar Jackson. But it will be, I think,
Yeah, one of
a
the
lot of
clutchest
touchdowns.
QBs in the game.
Yeah, definitely. So he'll come through when they need him. And the fourth quarter is the money quarter, and he'll show off.
All right, now last game, big rivalry around town, around Philly. See the Eagles jerseys. You even see some Cowboys jerseys here on campus. But
Don't
the
like
Eagles
that.
Cowboys, what do you got, Luke?
Man, this is going to be such a ridiculous game. Both teams just have not looked good in the last few weeks. I mean, we played the Jets and we looked really good, but it's the Jets without
but
Donald.
I mean, honestly, they
So-
didn't even look great in that game.
Yeah, our offense still looked kind of slow, but our defense looked great. And then, I mean, just last week, it looked like Carson was the only one trying on offense. He had a perfect ball to Alshon down the sideline, and Alshon tiptoed out of bounds when he could have had a touchdown. I mean, I just need to see some of these receivers for the Eagles start to make some plays. And just please, if I see a corner get burnt on a double move tonight, I'm going to lose it. I'm tired of it. Sidney Jones got burnt on a double move last week from inside the 5. That is embarrassing. Like, we just need to – our defense needs to step up because it's already banged up enough. Don't have Bradham, don't have Jernigan, don't have Maddox, just getting a hurt Jalen Mills
No
back,
Malik
Sidney
Jackson.
Jones. No Malik
Hasn't even played
Jackson.
all year.
Just cut Zach Brown, so we already have a depleted linebacking core.
But Nathan Perry, or
Nathan Gary.
Nathan Gary, the guy from Wisconsin.
He's got 2 picks this year.
he's a stud.
He is a stud.
Kid's a stud.
I mean, I just need to I need to see this offense kind of get into a groove. We need to start hot. We need to start out hot because we haven't. We've been trailing in every single game this year by at least 10 points besides the Jets.
Yep. I agree. But I want to talk more about the Cowboys because I know everybody here, a couple Eagles fans, but I want to talk about the Cowboys and how brutal they are.
Yeah.
3-0. Oh, the Cowboys, we're going to win the Super Bowl. We're going all the way. Dak Prescott, $1 million contract.
3 L's in a row.
3 losses in a row. Unacceptable. You have a great offensive line. You have Ezekiel Elliott. You have Amari Cooper. You have Dak Prescott, who I think is a solid quarterback. Your defense is playing all right. None of those losses, I mean, 1 or 2 of those losses is acceptable, but they've been playing terrible because they beat up on 3 Pee Wee teams. They want to talk about how great their team is. But I think the Cowboys, I think they'll make the playoffs. But, yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs. And I think they'll have a good season, and I kind of like the Cowboys in this one, though.
I think this is the Cowboys' bounce-back game.
I agree.
If there's going to be anyone, it's going to be this. The Eagles' secondary is
Terrible.
really, really bad.
Yeah, it's
And
probably
so
the worst
bad.
in the NFL.
It-
Behind,
I mean,
it's 30th.
We
'cause-
still got Malcolm in
okay.
the cloud. It's just corners.
I don't know.
It's
I've
the
seen
worst
the
in
Chiefs
the
play.
it's the worst in the real NFL because the Dolphins and the Redskins secondary don't count.
Yeah, they don't count.
So out of the 30,
Corners wise, we're probably the worst.
Yeah, because all you have is Malcolm. Malcolm Jenkins is getting up there, but he's not a coverage.
He's still playing every snap.
Yeah, but he's not a coverage safety. He's more of like a
I mean,
like a
I'll
linebacker
still-
playing safety.
Yeah, he always drops down.
The Cowboys receivers aren't healthy, but they're playing. Amari Cooper and Randall Cobb were both questionable going into this week and then throughout the week, and they got released yesterday that they're both going to play. So you have Amari Cooper, you have Gallup, and you have
Jason Witten.
Jason Witten, but
Automatic first down
He can
whenever
barely
catches
move.
the ball.
and then you have Randall Cobb, and the Eagles secondary is really bad. So I think Dak takes advantage of that. I think he gets his confidence back. I think the Eagles have, I think, the number 1 rated run defense in the entire league,
Yeah.
but I think Zeke still, I think the passing game opens up for Zeke, and Zeke kind of gets 70 yards on
Yeah,
whoever he
I
wants.
could see
So I think the Cowboys are going to kind of take this, and Eagles fans are going to be upset.
What do you got? Score.
I'm going to go Cowboys 28-20.
Quick thing before I get to my score. As this week started, the Cowboys had multiple questionable starters. So did the Eagles, including Deshaun Jackson. All of those questionable starters for the Cowboys are playing. Deshaun Jackson, still not playing.
Yeah.
So there's that. But that's besides the point, just because Dallas stinks. Eagles 28, Cowboys 24.
Josh.
We got the Eagles 30, Cowboys 20. Carson Wentz and the boys will come through today, and I believe the defense will step up. You got Jalen Mills coming back. I love that. You know, you got Darby most likely playing. You got the Cavalry's coming, you know, but I think that
Mills, right?
the defense will get to Prescott, and he will give us the ball back, and we will win that game in Jerry World Watch. We're going to steal that one.
I don't think Jalen Mills makes a difference. Dak Prescott, big day. Cowboys 35, Eagles 17. That's all I got to say. I know this is going to make some people mad, but I got the Cowboys in this one. Can't stop Kirk Cousins. There's no way you're stopping this Cowboys offense. But, hey, prove me wrong. They seem to always win. They seem to always win the game when everybody counts them out. But my gut reaction, I'm going with the Cowboys in this one. And we're going to see a lot of big games from big players this week. So back over to Josh for his you got it and you better, who to start and sit in his fantasy leagues.
All righty, you got it and you better. You listen to me, you will win this week. I'm going to start from the top. You got to start Kyle Murray against the Giants because he's coming off a 300-yard game, 3 touchdowns. He got 2 other 300-yard games, and Kyle Murray is being used a lot in the getting rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. So he will be used, and he's being a lot of shootouts as well. And in the shootouts, you use your best weapons. He's the Cardinals' best weapon, and today it will be another shootout, and he'll be used. Next, you got to start Josh Jacobs against the Packers because he's averaging 86 yards rushing the game. Got 4 touchdowns on the season. He's used in the red zone. Packers' weakness is the rush defense, so expect them to exploit that. Next, you got to start Miles Sanders against the Cowboys because in the last 3 weeks he's been used in the deep passing game, coming out with these wheel routes and lining up out wide. So expect him to go off against the Cowboys. The Cowboys struggle against running backs that are good at receiving. So expect him to go off in the deep passing game. Next, you got to start Calvin Ridley against the Rams because the Rams, they got Jalen Ramsey. He'll be following Julio Jones, but then Calvin Ridley will be going against guys with less experience. Calvin Ridley will go off in deep routes, deep post routes and slants. So expect him to move around and really exploit that defense. Next, you got to start DJ Shark against the Bengals. The Bengals have one of the worst secondaries, and DJ Shark has gotten at least a touchdown in 4 of the last 6 games. He got 2 games where he had 100-plus yards receiving, and Gardner Minshew's #1 weapon. So expect him to go off. Next, you got to start Evan Ingram against the Cardinals because he's one of Daniel Jones' favorite weapons, and also the Cardinals struggle against tight ends. You've seen Austin Hooper go off, T.J. Hockenson, basically every other tight end they faced this year. Then you got to start the 49ers defense against the Redskins. The 49ers defense is the top 5 in the league, and they got all first-rounders on that D-line, and the Redskins are just a terrible team. They just got their first win, and they beat the Dolphins, who was another winless team at the time, so expect them to really go off. And now for the people that you better sit, I got 2 guys for you. You better sit Ezekiel Elliott against the Eagles because Eagles have the #1 rushing defense, just like Luke just, told us earlier, and they have the #1 rushing defense. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and all them boys will make sure they contain of Ezekiel Elliott because they do not want him to get off. As soon as he start doing that feeding stuff with the spoon, you know, it's going to be almost a wrap. So you got to make sure you contain him and let Dak beat you, you know. You want him to go off instead of Zeke because Dak is not really reliable all the time. So you want to sit him, and then you got to sit Kenny Golladay against the Vikings because the Vikings have a good pass defense, and I expect Xavier Rhodes to really shut down Kenny Golladay. I think that Matthew Stafford will have to go elsewhere, you know, in his passing game other than him. So those are guys you got to start, and you better sit, and you will win this week. Thank me.
Thank you, Josh. And I'll start it off with mine. Said you got to start Allen Robinson on the Bears. Trubisky's back. He's healthy. Top 5 quarterback. Just kidding. But he's back and he's healthy, so look for A-Rob to have a big day. They've been getting him more involved in the offense, and I can see without P.J. Williams, I could see actually a couple of the Bears receivers having a good day, either Allen Robinson or Taylor Gabriel, because he's back this week from concussion. Also, you got to start Dak Prescott. You may be upset with how he played over the last couple weeks. Big bounce-back game. I'm expecting over 300 yards and at least three total touchdowns. Maybe he gets a rushing one. And my sits for this week, Terry McLaurin on the Redskins. Don't start him, sit him. They're playing a good 49ers team. That defense is insane. Richard Sherman's going to be on them all day. Yes, I really think McLaurin's a good wide receiver. He might be a good number 2, maybe a good number 1, but when you have nobody else to throw to on that team, he's going to get shut down. So don't put him in your flex. Try to find someone else to play them. And also Todd Gurley, simply just because he's splitting carries. And I don't think maybe he gets a touchdown, but yeah, his maximum potential is like 10 points this week. If you have to play him, play him. But if not, don't start Todd Gurley either.
So I'm going to start all the Cowboys receivers if you have one. Like, if you have one, start them. The Eagles secondary is that bad. And they're all playing, so start one if you have them. If you have Amari Cooper, play him. Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb might be a good. If you need
Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup are pretty much you just start them anyway.
Exactly.
But
Randall Cobb, because there's a lot of bye weeks.
it's just more so because they're playing the Eagles.
Cobb might be a good stream guy if you pick him up off the waiver wire and start him this week.
And my sit's going to be David Montgomery. I kind of drafted him too early this year in my league, and he's kind of been depressing.
Yep.
And
Very depressing. Bears offensive
he
line
started
is
out
terrible.
he started out not getting the touches he really needed, and now he's just not really making the most of them. And the Saints have actually a really good run defense, so
They have a good
I would
defense.
just kind of keep him on your bench for now and the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, like you said with the Cowboys receivers, I hate to say this, but you got to start Michael Gallup. I mean, it makes too much sense. Most people will have him on your bench or in flex. You got to start him. Our corners are just awful. And another start, you got to start Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. Redskins' rushing defense is terrible. Both of them are splitting carries. Yes, that's a downside, but if you have one of them, start them because they still get a lot of carries in that offense.
And I could see it being a big rushing game for them.
Oh, yeah.
If they go up 25 early, it's just give
just
them a
start
lot of
milking
carries.
that.
Exactly.
Breida
They
could
could
break off a
honestly
big
both
run.
get 100 yards today.
Yeah,
If they go up a lot early.
Redskins are bad.
Yeah.
Just awful. So, and you better sit. This is a big one, Michael Thomas. I mean, you got a lot of weapons out for the Saints. I mean, he's the only one there, really, so they're going to be keying him a lot and kind of most likely just key on him and shut him down.
Yeah, I agree. You said sit Michael Thomas.
Sit Michael Thomas.
Is that a bold
I mean-
prediction?
It is a sit and also a bold prediction. At
Oh,
the same
wow.
time.
We got a sit
Double.
and a bold prediction for
Doesn't-
Michael Thomas. That's a big one because Michael Thomas has been the number 2 fantasy wide receiver all year. You don't sit a guy like that, but I see what you're saying. Because
Same.
no Teddy Bridgewater, no Jared Cook, no Alvin Kamara. I could see that. So, I mean, it's a good sit if you have the depth. I was thinking about sitting him.
No.
I was thinking about
No.
sitting him in my league
You
'cause
have the depth.
I have
No.
Landry. I have Will
Sit him.
Fuller. Will I probably do it? No.
Sit him.
There are about 10 guys at every position that regardless of who they play or the situation, you play them anyway. And he is, without a doubt, one of those guys.
But if you have the depth, you
That's it.
can.
If you have the depth.
You can.
If you
sit
got
him.
Gallup sitting on your bench, start Gallup over
You
Michael
play
Thomas.
them. You play them both.
Yep. Well, we got bold predictions out coming up, and we could have some crazy ones with Michael Thomas, but we'll start it over the studio with Josh.
Yeah, my pleasure to start it off. You know, I'm going to get bold. We're going to go down to the 49ers. You know, their defense, top 5. Like I said, they would be, manifesting what I said. The 49ers defense, they will have 5 sacks against the Redskins, and they also get 2 turnovers. So the front end and the back end will work together, and they'll both thrive together, get 5 sacks and 2 turnovers. So Richard Sherman and the boys and all them first rounders on the D-line will get off. Next, I'm going to go down to the game of the mobile QBs. You got Russell Money Wilson, Lamar Jackson. They both will get more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns. So I repeat, they will get more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns today, both of them. And number 3, Will Fuller had a breakout game 2 weeks ago. I believe he'll have another breakout game. Yes, 3. Whew, I think he'll show off this week. Just like he did 2 weeks ago against the Colts in the division rival. He will show off, have a breakout game. Look out for probably another 40 burger or even higher today. And this is a fun little one I'm throwing there. Dak Prescott gets 2 picks. He will not thrive today like you think he will.
Love that one.
Yeah, well, thank you, Josh. I mean, I don't know about the Dak Prescott one, but Will Fuller, I could see Will Fuller having a big day. He let me down last week, dropped 3 touchdowns, should have had like 50 fantasy points, had 9, but we won't talk about that. Go ahead, Luke. Start off your bold predictions.
Bold predictions. I'm going Julio Jones will torch the newly acquired Jalen Ramsey today for 150 receiving yards and a touchdown. As bad as the Falcons are, Julio is always consistent.
All right, let me go get my first one because it goes against that. I said Julio Jones will not have a single catch today against the Rams. Jalen Ramsey is going to strap him up, lock him down. I don't care if he's the best wide receiver.
That's the equivalent to the Patriots not winning a game the rest of the season.
Julio will not have a single catch today against Jalen Ramsey.
Okay, if you say so. My next one, I'm going to go the Raiders. John Gruden will beat the Packers.
I can see that.
Packers coming off a good win, even though the refs may or may not have handed it to them. Raiders coming off a bye week. Packers played Monday night. Raiders getting that win.
Go Raiders.
And then, go Raiders. As Josh said, Russell Wilson's going to rush for some touchdowns. I'm going Russell Wilson will throw for 4 touchdowns today, strengthen his MVP case.
No Michael Thomas?
Well, that's just
Go
a
ahead,
bonus
give a fourth.
Michael Thomas will have 3 catches today. Not go past 50 yards.
3 catches under. I could see it.
All
Bears
right.
defense.
First, I'm going with the Jets will upset the Patriots. Somehow. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but
Mind blown.
somehow, some way, it's going to happen. Josh Allen throws 3+ touchdowns this week, so 3 or more. Why? They're playing the Dolphins. I haven't been here in like 2 or 3 weeks, so you haven't heard my Dolphins takes, but on my notes here, I have Dolphins in the biggest print on the entire paper. They're playing the Dolphins. He's going to be the best quarterback this week. And there's going to be at least 2 return touchdowns this week. So that could be fumble, punt, pick six, kickoff, 2 return touchdowns.
Nice. All right, well, I got 2 more. Russell Wilson, I got another Russell Wilson. That's my guy. That's my MVP. Russell Wilson, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns against 5 total touchdowns, not just passing, 5 total touchdowns. And to your Michael Thomas point, the Bears defense will shut out the Saints today. No Brees, no Kamara, no Jared Cook, ball control, no P.J. Williams. Bears are going to put up a lot of points, and they're going to shut out the Saints today.
You know what? Let me add a 4th one.
Go ahead.
Michael Thomas drops 10 for 100. Whether he has a touchdown or not, I don't know. But he's going to have 10 catches for 100 yards.
Against the Bears defense.
Yep.
Wow.
Not against Kyle Fuller.
Yep.
But we'll see. So next week we're going to be talking about that guy, Michael Thomas. So we'll see how it goes. We all had a few takes on him. That's the spotlight player to watch this week. And thank you for tuning in to this week's show. And I hope to see you next week.